This is not an image. This is a literal. What you're looking at is the little person of the eye. Now here's the phrase. He, God, guarded him, you, as the little man of his eye. Which means what? When God looks into your eye, what does he see? He sees himself. Somewhere deep in there. And when you look into his eyes, you have to personify him here. But when you look into his eyes, what do you see deep inside of his being? What do you see? You see yourself. You see yourself. That's a reality that becomes an image of the reality of God, and you are, there's something there that's meant to be. Made in the image of, maybe? There's something there that's meant to be. And it's that kind of care, yeah, that's being talked about here. Because the next line says, the Lord alone guided him. And that's the point. The point of going into the Sinai for 40 years, the point of Jesus up here for 40 days, it's just the Bible scholar Westermann wrote a book on the land. He said, the wilderness is a place where you have nothing, yet lack nothing.
Yes.
All right? Having nothing, yet lacking nothing. And it's that place where everything is stripped away but you and God. Everything is stripped away. As a poet, a Jewish poet said, into the bare immensities of time. He's talking about Moses on Mount Sinai. Everything is stripped away. And then you see what's essential for life. And then you get the survival skills, like a David, but even more so. Talked about yesterday. The survival skills that then organize your sense of priorities, so that when you enter into the noisy and busy land with everybody else, you know who you are. Your identity is founded here. The three greatest people in the Old Testament, in terms of setting standards of what God's life is going to be like, Abraham, Moses, and David. All three of them were shepherds. Wilderness, desert people. All three of them. Yeah? Abraham, Moses, and David. No, they ended up being settled and everything else, but Jesus, the Good Shepherd, whose foundational experience is going to be here before he begins anything up in the big cities. And there's something pristine here. Now, here's the point of life. When Israel is going through those formative experiences in the wilderness where no one crossed and no one could dwell and it was just them and God, it wasn't here. It wasn't here. What you're looking at is the goal of where they're coming to. This is part of the promised land. The other wilderness is worse than this. I'll take you to Sinai someday. Talk about scrappy land, right? When they're sitting over there with Moses and Deuteronomy is being preached, which we just read, they're looking at this. This is all they can see. They see nothing else. And Moses says, that's what God is giving you. Oh, and then the land goes beyond. Over the top. You can't see it from here, can you? You can't see it. Over the top and beyond, there's great land as well. Even better. And the entire opening up then of the history of ancient Israel is living spaces that are partly tough, hard, beat you up, rough memories of those founding moments, and partly let me bless you in ways that are a bit more easy to live in, which is over the top. And promised land is both, actually. Promised land, which is not a Bible phrase, that's a later Christian phrase. Promised land, we like to interpret as, God promises to give me all that stuff, right? Wouldn't that be great, all that promise? Make it a Christmas thing, right? A Christmas present thing is what we tend to make it. Promised land in the Bible is a land where I promise to take care of you no matter what happens. Part of which is this. And part of which is up there with all the temptations of ease and comfort and other kinds of diversions. So Israel has to keep coming back here to learn their lesson as to who they really are again. Who they really are again.
Isn't that typical of us?
That is more typical of us than you can possibly imagine.
This is our battle for cancer.
Then you can, you know, any given. Let me take just give a hypothetical. I would imagine that when you and Godfrey preach on any given Sunday morning, probably half the congregation is living here, half the congregation is living up there. And come back next week, and some of you have changed places,
Yes.
right? Some of you have changed places,
Yes.
but don't worry, you're going to come back, right?
Yes.
And the good thing about the Bible is, maybe the reason that God said to Moses, get out of Egypt, where life is pretty easy, actually, pretty comfy, is that this is a lot more realistic.
Yes.
It's a lot more realistic as to what life really is.
Yes.
Yeah, we tend to prefer life up there. Yeah. Every time Israel's exiled, they're exiled into this to kind of start again. You want to say something?
Just, is there anywhere in the New Testament that uses that same imagery of the apple of the eye? Is there any imagery in the New Testament, anything that draws on that language referring to Jesus? Because I can't help but think somehow Jesus is...
It's something he ought to said, right?
He's there in the middle between.
Yeah, he ought to said that.
Of God and
Yeah. You got to work with that one.
Too.
Yeah. You know, Jesus is that middle point, right? Fully human, fully God.
He's the translucent.
He's the
Look through and see. Through
and
him.
see who God, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
And vice versa. All of that is there. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, please.
Just talk briefly, if you would, the whole, this is a place of isolation
Yeah.
and loneliness.
Yeah.
David
Yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah.